It has been a long time coming, but the downside risk in the 911 Carrera market just increased tremendously. After the start of the pandemic, 911 prices soared and in many cases outpaced their competitors. Yet, as we saw in the previous market update, the upward trend turned flat during this spring. A flat price development or a slight price decrease seems most likely. Fast forwarding a few months, we can see now that prices started to decrease in the majority of the segments. And this of course elevates the downside price risk in the 911 market. You might be less happy to hear this if you own one, but if you are waiting for prices to come down, this might be music to your ears. But as always, we'll first have a quick look at the market so that we're all on the same page before we have a look at the price trends. Over here we have the US 911 Carrera market of August with the model year on the horizontal axis and the price on the vertical axis. In total there are 1,478 clean title cars for sale and they have a median price of $100,000. However, this number doesn't tell us so much as there are big price differences between the generations. You can pick up a 996 for $23,000, but prices go up to $230,000 for the 992 GTS. Now when we look at these prices, we can see familiar patterns. The newer the generation, the higher the price. A .2 version is more expensive than a .1, but the price difference depends a lot on the generation you are looking at. A 996.2 is for example $10,000 or around 32% more expensive than a 996.1, while a 991.2 is around $30,000 more or 36% more expensive than a 991.1. We can also see beautifully that there's a 911 for every budget, at least if your budget starts at $21,000. This is a wonderful thing, but also makes the market a bit tricky to analyze. It's no problem to make a 15-minute long video for each generation. You can break them down by transmission type, color, roof type, you name it. And sometimes this leads to interesting insights. However, I will cover the complete market in this video, but I will only show you the price developments which I think are most interesting. But please let me know down below in the comment section if you would prefer to have a detailed video for each generation. But now then, the prices that we just saw don't seem to be so different from the prices 3 months ago. That's correct. Even when we look at these high-level price trends for the 992, 991, 997 and 996, all seems pretty calm in the 911 market. We can see some minor price decreases of 1% in the 991 market, 2% in the 997 market, but prices are still higher than 1 year ago. Yet, as we saw in previous videos, aggregate numbers can be deceiving, so let's look into the details. But I would like to get your attention for today's video sponsor before we continue. Today's video is brought to you by Exclusive Auctions. Exclusive Auctions is a new full-service online marketplace featuring auctions and classifieds. They specialize in race cars, sports cars, exotics, tuner cars, high performance, resto mods and specialty vehicles. They have many really great features. With their gold listing package, sellers pay 0 listing fees and receive 100% of the selling price of their vehicle. Their buy fees are some of the lowest in the industry. They offer full service after sales support with everything from pre-purchase inspections and transport services to escrow services ensuring a safe and secure transaction for both buyer and seller. Click on the link below or go to exclusiveauctions.com and register to bid or list your car for sale today. On their website you will find for example this 911 Carrera 4S, a car that is in mint condition and for sale. But now then, let's have a detailed look at the price trends and especially at the price trends that saw a somewhat significant price decrease. Over here we have the price trend for the 997.2 S market. And this reveals that prices are down by 3.8% compared to May and by 6.7% compared to the market top of February. And the latter price drop is statistically confirmed, so this means that it is unlikely that it's the result of chance. I also looked at this price drop for cars with different mileages, and this revealed that the drop is carried quite evenly across the market. Low mileage cars lost slightly more than the rest, but the difference is only minor. Now a drop of 6.7% is something that we didn't see for a long time in the 911 market. Yet, compared to last year, prices are still up by 5.2%. The second market that saw a significant price decrease is the 991 market, and this goes for almost all segments. Starting with the base models, we can see a drop of 2.7% in the 991.1 market and a drop of 3.9% in the 991.2 market. Again, both of these drops are statistically confirmed. The one in the .2 market appeared rather sudden, but the one in the .1 market follows from a nice and smooth topping pattern. Nevertheless, with these two price decreases, prices are again at the same level as 1 year ago. Price drops in the S market are slightly smaller, but also here we can see more moves towards the downside than towards the upside. We can see, for example, that the .2 4Ss are down by 2.3% from their market top, while this is 4.2% for the .1 4Ss. With a drop of 1%, the .2Ss decreased only marginally, while .1S prices were flat. Also, the GTS market is characterized by price drops. .2s came down by 5.9%, while .1s are 5.4% under their market top of August 2021. I think you can see the pattern here. Even the T models fit in the pattern as prices decreased by 4.5% during the last 3 months. And all of this continues in the 992 market, and this is perhaps the most surprising finding. We can see a price drop of 4.4% in the S market and a clear price stabilization in the base market. And this is remarkable for a car that is not so easy to find at MSRP. We may find a possible explanation in the supply levels. If we have a quick look at the market characteristics, we can see on the left that supply levels for used 992s climbed and appear to be relatively stable between 170 to 200 cars. That might be just enough for the current price level. New car supply is of course still dramatically low, and as long as it is this low, it will be difficult to find cars at MSRP. So we saw now that prices are decreasing in the majority of the segments, but there is one exception to this rule. Exactly, the 996 market. Or to put it more precisely, the 996.1 base market. Starting off with the complete 996 market, we can see that prices are up by 1.3%. And this price increase is very small and could be the result of chance. But we can see from the shape of the trend that this market looks different from the rest. There's still a very weak uptrend in the market, whereas most other segments show the first signs of a new downtrend. Now within this 996 market, it is remarkable to see how stable 996.1 prices have been. Over here we have the base market split by generation, and look at that blue line. Compared to October 21, 996.1 prices changed by only 0.5%. Moreover, as I mentioned also in the previous market update, we can see that the quality of the cars that are for sale is improving. The median mileage is decreasing, and from this you can deduce that the cars are in better condition. Alright, we saw now quite many different price developments, but there's a good chance that the development you're most interested in was not featured. I therefore asked you on YouTube and on my Instagram what questions you would like to see answered about the Carrera market. And this is something that I started to do for these larger market update videos. So if you would like to see your question answered, be sure to subscribe or to follow me on Instagram. But let's have a look at your questions. AIGT4 asked how low inventory models are doing, like the GTS for example. Well, the 992 GTS is relatively new, so I do not have a reliable price trend for that one. Regarding the other 992s, we saw that prices are still very high, but that used supply increased and appears to be relatively stable. Hence, the price increase halted, and we even saw a price decrease of 4.4% in the S market. Then there were a lot of you who asked about future prices and especially about long-term price forecasts, but I will address those at the end of the video. Moving on to the next one, Zahid asked how the GTS looks for each generation, and also DGB is interested in the GTS market. There were actually a lot of questions about the GTS market, so I just bundled them together here. But maybe I should just cover them in a separate GTS video. Over here we have the GTS prices excluding the ones for the 992. As I mentioned before, I don't have a reliable trend for that one yet. Looking at the prices, we can see decreases in all segments. Yet, the 997 GTS and 991.2 GTSs are still more expensive than 1 year ago. Moving on, Adam would like to see the same kind of video but for the European market. I believe I mentioned this before, but this is something that is in the pipeline. The channel actually started off with videos for the German and the UK market, and I would like to bring this back. Let's have a look at the next question. JO would like to see some more breakdowns of the 992 market. If we look at the price trends broken down by roof type, we can see that they are very similar. Generally speaking, coupes and cabriolets move in parallel to each other. We continue with some questions from Instagram and start with a question from someone who has a name that looks very difficult to pronounce. He asked about the difference between the manual and automatics 996 4Ss. When we split the 996 market between the automatics and the manuals, we can see that they move approximately in parallel. There's one exception over here, but this is the result from a development in the underlying mileages. It does not represent a real price development. You can then also see that the uncertainty interval, so the shaded area, is very large over there. Finally then, John the Motive asked if the 992 is going to depreciate faster over time than the 996. And this is a very good question and also a very original one. But to be honest, I would need to do some more research before I can answer that question, so perhaps I will cover it in a separate video. Now, to wrap up these questions, I would like to mention that many of you also submitted questions for other 911 models like the Targas, the GT3s and the Turbos. However, since this video covered only the normal Carreras, I decided to address only those questions. But my channel is organized by playlist, and if you open the Porsche playlist you will find the latest market updates for other 911 models, and I intend to update them every quarter. So stay tuned for that. Now, before we wrap up and conclude, I would like to thank all of you for submitting your questions. In fact, there were a bit more questions than I was anticipating. So unfortunately I couldn't answer all of the questions, but for those of you who didn't see their questions featured, please try again for the next market update. And with that I think it's time to wrap up and conclude. 1 year ago the market update consisted out of severe price increases. The last two updates, however, consisted out of flattening price trends. The message was, it is more likely that we will see a flat price development or a slight price decrease than that we will see price increases. Hence, it is no surprise that we are seeing now price decreases in most segments. But it is the first time that I'm seeing this since I'm tracking these prices. And we do need to recognize that it fits with the exotic car market price trend. During my Q2 market update video, we saw that most markets saw a flat price development and that a majority of them saw price decreases. The 911 Carrera market is arguably the most popular sports car market, so the developments that we just saw might be a precursor to what is and what will happen with the rest of the market. And that brings us to a tricky topic, future prices. It's clear that with these price decreases, the downside price risk increased tremendously in the market. Yet, at the same time, it is also difficult to attach a weight to these price drops. Are they small pre-winter drops after which the price trend will flatten again? Or will we see an acceleration in the downward trend and did we just witness the start of mayhem? Now, to see the latter, something extreme needs to happen, in the same way that something extreme needed to happen to drive prices up to this level. In a way, many economic indicators are outside of their normal territory, but is this enough to push prices down with, let's say, 5 to 10% during the next 3 months? I prefer to think of these kind of developments in terms of scenarios, and I still think that this is the more unlikely scenario. Yet, the probability of it materializing increased compared to the previous market update. A continuation of the current short-term trend, meaning a drop of 1 to 3% or a flat development, is in my opinion more likely. Historically speaking, it is rare to see large corrections. But I of course could be wrong. Without an evidence model of the price drivers, my opinion is based more on art than science. Some of you also asked me about long-term predictions for 911 prices, like 5 to 10 years. But to be honest, who knows what the world will look like then? We just saw during the pandemic that an extreme event might catapult prices one way or another. Therefore, I think that a price prediction with such a long time horizon is of little use as the uncertainty in the prediction is too high. Having said that, if you want to minimize the chances of losing money on your car and intend to keep it for 10 years or perhaps even longer, it makes sense to find a car that is already bottomed out. So that would be the 996, 997 and within a few years also the 991 generation. With a 992 you have the probability of being subject to the full depreciation curve. And on that note we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoyed this video and would like to support the channel, please click on the like button down below. Thank you. You can, by the way, also request an analysis by commenting the name of the car for which you would like to see a video down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I will make a video about it.